the next item on the agenda, it's again a discussion item. It's Cedar Swamp, future uses and planning. Do we have anybody? Nope, it's only you, Becca, Dom. Okay.
Sure. So, like described in the notes, pretty much the health department approached us recently, and so there's contamination on a conservation commission managed property that's currently, just swamp, vegetated, non-recreational use for the large portion of it. And I'll just pull up a map while we're talking here. Yeah. Hold on one second.
Steve may remember. Steve, were you here when couple of notice of intents to do some borings and test holes for this project for this area? You're muted. You're muted.
No, that predates me, Sam.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about Cedar Swamp, but the only conversations I've ever had are just with community members
Okay.
about the project.
Okay. All right. Yes,
Sure.
Don.
So, as when some exploratory borings were underway, theoretically planning for a boardwalk or other recreational use of the general area, they identified contaminated soils, which triggers sort of a procedural review and mitigation by health department in collaboration with DEP. So that's on this parcel here, 618. As part of that review process, there's like 4 phases of environmental site assessment. As part of phase 3, they informed us that it's important to have a sense of what the future planned use for the parcel is, so that any mitigation activities that take place can be informed by that use and potentially sort of combine efforts to, capitalize on efficiencies potentially. Like if you're removing soil, maybe that's an opportunity to construct a wetland for wetland replication, for example. So this is the Cedar Swamp in its entirety, tucked away here, just south of Farm Pond and just north of Lake Washaycom. Highly saturated wetland area. This indicates some trails, but really it's an impassable area besides just the furthest south end here, where there's a little loop of trails that doesn't extend beyond just this very southern portion. Like you saw in some of the background materials, several of these large parcels are actually controlled or officially deeded to the schools department, because back in the 70s, before the Wetlands Protection Act, they were going to fill this in and build a school, and those plans got stopped in their tracks. So that's sort of a remnant of a past time. But the purpose of bringing this to the commission was just to sort of reintroduce a project that was explored as part of the 2019 Conservation Master Plan made by Beals and Thomas, where they sort of theorized some different ways to make this a formal passive recreation site with, pulling out some parking areas here, identifying the potential path of a boardwalk, and some of these existing upland trails on the southern end. So, yeah, just to reintroduce this to the commission, before any sort of formal commitments or decisions or anything can be made, we also need to obviously get in touch with the schools department, who control a large portion of this site. But this is something that's been discussed in the past, and just as this health assessment or the environmental assessment comes underway in the next several months, they're looking to have something definitive to say is going to be the future use. So this is one option, and just wanted to put it on the commission's radar.
So may I talk, Sam?
Yes.
So I think this represents an interesting opportunity for the Conservation Commission to explore whether property that is being protected or preserved has to be used for recreational purposes. It would seem like it would be legitimate to say that a property like this doesn't necessarily need to have to have a recreational use. It can simply be a preserve, and recognizing that as soon as you start putting trails through it, you have an impact on the overall wildlife values within the area. So somehow that I would ask that we introduce that into the conversation. So our automatic response isn't, well, what do we use it for?
Yeah.
Given our
This is the,
responsibility, we're not a recreation organization, we're a natural resource protection organization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it would. I mean, the big part is the abutters or the neighborhood. I mean, if like we've seen it time and time again. I mean, if they are strong proponents of wanting something,
Or not wanting something.
or not wanting something. Yes, I mean, again,
But we can take a position ourselves that we think it has natural resource value and would
in
recommend that it be a preserve.
preserve. Yeah, so we could do that too. So yeah, okay. Gene.
yeah, I mean, I agree with Steve. Just because you can do something doesn't mean it's always a good idea. And if this is flooding out, at times, and I'm curious to see just how bad it's flooding out, because I'm sure it is. It doesn't make a lot of sense to start, investing into it if it's just going to get flooded out with some type of structure. So, I'm kind of on the same page with you folks, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with Jane.
Dom, what's the are we just the commission part of it? Is there going to be other public input that's going to be sought out for this project in
Sure. So I think our next steps as the staff, we want to reach out to folks at the schools department, figure out, what, if any, their objectives or opinions about the management of these
Mhm.
parcels are, and then from there, sort of determine who is going to be a, collective authority or a sole authority in terms of sort of making a path forwards and holding those sort of public conversations. But formally, I mean, I don't know if there's any, mechanism besides once we figure that out, who's going to be, taking the point. It would be up to them to solicit public feedback.
Has anyone ever done an environmental assessment? Not looking at the toxicity issue, but looking at natural resource values in there, wildlife communities?
I um I don't think so. And that's exactly what I was thinking too. I mean, before we kind of come up with some idea, I mean, we need to know what it is. I mean, what's the
Yeah,
value
there.
It
I'd
might be
like to know.
a place for
Um,
Steve DiNicola or somebody to fly a drone and see what's there.
Well, that's true too,
well,
but I wonder
is
if
it-
we could have a preliminary assessment done by somebody, be
Well,
relatively
we
low
could-
cost.
Can we just look at the firm maps and see where we are in relation to the floodplains and so forth?
I think judging by again, I don't know who the consultant was representing, but I'm pretty sure it's the schools probably that came in front of us for the notice of intent. Uh, and they had plans. I mean, in terms of like, I'm pretty sure there's some surveying, some other like, wetland flagging assessment, because I'm pretty sure it was a notice of intent that was filed in front of us. So there should be adequate information already there, Gene, that
Can,
we can pull up. Dom, if you can, if we like, the old notice of intents, and or the consultant that worked on it. Yes, David S.
a quick question, Sam and team. It says here in that I think what we're looking at is somebody is reaching out to look at this property for a certain purpose, and do we have to wait till they kind of decide the idea of what they want to do with it? I mean, it's not us that's going to decide what's going to happen to Cedar Swamp. It's
That's right.
somebody else, right?
No, no, no,
And
no,
that-
no. They're doing strictly the environmental cleanup. So what they're asking for is what is the intended use, future intended use that could impact it.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
they want us to help define that and give them more
I
clarity.
mean, it's a good thing that they're trying to reach out and not like
Okay.
just go and just clean it up and be done with it. So that's why I'm asking Dom. I mean, who else needs to be plugged in or like,
Yeah.
So there's no immediate plans. Keep us apprised of what your actions are. That's sort
Right.
of would be the response.
Yeah, I mean the other thing too is I know when the notice of intent came in front of the commission, I mean there is a strong, how do I say it, like there was mixed feelings, but most of it was no, we do not want this to happen, like boardwalks or whatnot. So there is the neighborhood probably there is a group, I think, and I don't think they're in support of doing anything. For public safety, invite like once you make it a trail, there's like people going to be coming in at night. Things could happen, all of this stuff. So again, I'm going by my memory. It's been years, but
Well,
yes, David.
uh, when I read the background information, it said that there's a phase 2 comprehensive site assessment report that's due, like May 21st this year. Couldn't we get information from that?
Yeah, so those types of, I think that's going to be highly focused on the contaminated area. So that's like just sort of one corner of the property and largely outside of the wetland, I believe. So we can definitely get a copy of
comprehensive is too comprehensive then.
Comprehensive
I'm
to
sorry.
yeah.
Who's the owner? Who's the owner of the property?
So it's a city-owned parcels throughout the entire swamp itself. Where the contamination is located and has been identified, that's specifically deeded to conservation. So under the management of the
So,
conservation.
all right,
Commission.
so we own it. We have no plans. End the discussion.
Well, there's other departments that may, Gene. I mean, somebody else may, if I understand how this works.
Dom
But
just said it's ours. Dom
Don't-
just said it
don't-
was ours. Right?
literally, or did he say the cities?
Well, the city, but they assigned it to us to manage and take care of. So I don't see how anybody else can, well, maybe someone can try, but
But anyway, let's bring it back. I think that there is a lot of existing information. There's a lot of history to this. How Cedar Swamp actually came about, how the commission took it. There's a lot of history. So let me, we'll put that piece together.
yeah, Sam's right. I mean, if somebody wants to make a run at something, let them come in there and demonstrate, do the studies, give us the background, give us the information, if they have some compelling argument, but basically, my understanding is there's going to be some environmental cleanup. They're just consulting with us to see if there's any plans. No, there's no plans at the moment. Go ahead and do your cleanup and keep us apprised of anything that's, that would be of interest to us.
Is that how you see it, Sam? That we got to
When
do
you say
cleanup?
there's no plans at the moment, the document said that it was included in the 2019 Conservation Master Plan, and that included a boardwalk and trails.
There was a consultant working on it. So why don't we just get educated or dig that up, see where it is, and then we'll probably follow up with the discussion. But
Okay.
Steve, did you have anything to add? If not, I'll
Me?
Stephen.
Me?
Yes, you have your
Hands up.
hand up.
You raised your
Yeah,
hand.
so I think we should send a letter back to the health department saying we've discussed this and we're interested in more dialogue about it, just to respond to what he did to us and try to create a next step.
Well, like Don proposed, I mean, he'll reach out to the schools and see what the next steps are and what is needed from the commission. So we'll do the follow-up. Okay. All right. So Stephen Nicola.
Hi, thank you. Amen to all of you just on the thought process on this. It's a great opportunity to look at these different situations and really gauge yourself as to properties that are for human consumption where it's beneficial and it provides great benefits to the overall community, or is it something more beneficial to a non-human consumption, natural resource, as Mr. Weissman said. It's just excellent point of view. There are a couple of things. One, Mr. Anderson, I actually went out yesterday and took drone shots because you're absolutely right. In the middle of the winter, there are no leaves on the trees, and with the snow on the ground, it really gives you a nice contrast. So yes, I did that. I don't want to go too deep into this evening. I think you guys went down the right path, and they're not asking anything particular from you guys this evening. They're trying to put it in front of you. So I don't want to get too deep in this. But there are vernal pools in there. It is a wildlife, intensive, it's intensive habitat. There is a group, the Colburnville Tripoli group. I believe you received a letter from them. So there is a group that's out there that's paying attention to this. Jonathan Nero, who is a previous conservation commissioner, administrator, who's very highly regarded and is I believe he's a consultant still for the city. He's actually the one who worked on this with Beals and Thomas. Is that right, Dom? Yeah. So there's a lot of history here. They've been through this. But I think right now, the phase 2 that you mentioned, Mr. Anderson, the reason they sent this to us is because they found the toxic stuff. They're required to go through this process. And before they get into phase 2, where they describe how they're going to clean it up, they usually like to figure out what the purpose of the property is so they could advise the cleanup specifically towards that. I mean, if they were going to build a park, they would have to do the toxic waste cleanup maybe a different way than if it was going to be left in a natural state.
Yeah.
So I think they were reaching out with you guys to see, do you have any plans? Because if you did, we would like to approach the cleanup differently. And if you don't have any plans, which it sounds like, we're in a wait and see, you get more information, then I think they'll approach the cleanup differently. So I just wanted to, I don't know, bring those up, but I do appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of that happening here, and in this particular property, I think it's a really good. You guys, I think you're excellent at looking at it to say, we need a really good reason and a really good benefit before we start, ripping up wetlands and things like that. So
Understand what's there is very important because, like with vernal pools, that's why you have to have boardwalks and people not just tramping all over the place, but they have a specific trail that they have to stay on.
Well, right now there's a lot of homeless encampments and there's a lot of, it needs to be cleaned up, not just from toxic waste. And I think that the neighborhood and the abutters, and there's a lot of abutters, are very much against this. But it's a different topic for a different day. I think right now you guys really address the main issue is they're trying to figure out, how this is viewed in the future for use. And if it's not going to be used, then I think they'll limit their cleanup, or put their cleanup more specific to that rather than something like the Mary Dennison Playground is going through an enormous, massive cleanup because they intend on building parks and playgrounds and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's it. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks, Stephen. Alrighty. Okay, anything else, Dom, Becca?
No,
Anyone
yeah,
else?
no, like people discussed, no action was expected, really just sort of
Yeah, it's just
bringing this up, and yeah, like we talked about, we'll do some more investigation behind the scenes, look into the history. Happy to share those documents with people as they arise and try to, get some more information.
all right. Thanks, Dom. All right.